Hello Strategists, we are back with me, Dani. We are going to do the G-FRED today. I'm just going to paint them, and we're going to do as much detail as possible, and we're going to do a little series of all three of them that we got with the Gundam Assemble for the set. And I've already primed them with a metallic black just as a primer, because it does not say on the package whether or not they were initially primed, and I don't see it as a problem to reprime with them even if they are done. So let's get started. I'm going to do a blue, red, and purple, all metallic. And these are just acrylic that we're starting with. I do have some regular paints, but I am not particularly fond of using them, and I found that acrylics work just as good for these type of projects. Please excuse the boo-boo on my finger. I was doing yard work. Now, as you can see, I'm using acrylics that are cheap. I bought them at Walmart. It's not necessarily recommended, but it does get the effects I want. It's cheaper. It does take a little bit of extra effort versus I do have some of the standard paints for painting models, and it does go on smoother, fewer coats. But if you don't want to spend the $5 per color, like I hesitate to do unless it's something really fancy, I just do this. As you see, I'm not using super expensive paint brushes. I do have a couple, but they just aren't as thin, and I actually have a little bit of problem with my vision. So for tiny details, I have trouble with the larger brushes. And these are particularly small. And I am relatively new to doing this type of painting. So doing one this small is quite the challenge that I've undertaken. With the majority of our purple done, I will go back and touch up. We are going to switch over to the blue. And I'm trying to keep this accessible. I have a heart condition and problems with my vision. So anyone who's watching this has anything similar, take it easy on yourself. It's not a race. If it's not perfect, it's fine. Do it the way you like it to be. But I've also discovered that doing it the primer in a metallic paint does make it a little easier in the light to see these little details that I would normally have a lot more trouble seeing. So if you are having issues or even just normal aging and vision, then I would suggest maybe trying out a metallic paint for your primer, even if it's something that's pre-primed. Never hurts to redo it, and certain colors do make different effects stand out more. In this case, the black kind of works for what we're doing since it makes a good base, and I can just paint over it and makes the metallic colors stand out a little bit more. So, as you can see, I'm not 100% happy with this. So after everything's said and done, dried, I am going to take some of the metallic black that I primed it in, and this itty bitty guy, and then just refill in those areas to create it a more detailed look. But I'm not going to stress out about it right now because it is starting to come together and look kind of cool. Okay, I am going to do something. I normally have our cat Karlak in here with me when I've been doing videos, and I'm about to add another one. Miss Lagertha is going to be coming in, so you may hear the occasional jingle. She's the only one of our cats with a collar on, and it's because she's my pretty princess. I have let the princess in. See, this is what I prepared everybody. This is Lagertha, and she's going to get down. little break. I had to run some errands. Coming back to see if we can get this finished and ready to varnish. Now, at this point, I am cut free. We are onto the red portion, and you see I've discovered some faults in my paint. I have to actually pull out the purple again and do some touch-ups after I'm all done, just to make sure everything matches the way it's supposed to. I thought it'd be good to stop here and show people. With this red, it's not quite as fluid and wet as the other paints were, so I'm having to use more water to get it to come on smoothly. But ultimately, it's still cool. And I'm going to use less of the red than I did with the purple and the blue, mostly for highlights. And I think I'm going to do a little bit of red in here. And on the bottom of the shoes. I guess they're shoes. Do robots wear shoes? I'm assuming so. And just a couple of spots in the back. And keep it mostly to the purple and blue mixed with the black. So, and I was kind of given license to do whatever I wanted color-wise with this. We just kind of discussed it ahead of time. I'm hoping to maybe learn how to play the game, but my focus was, at this point in time, was mostly just the painting portion because the game isn't even out yet. Alright, and I have a new guest of a Mr. Bartholomew. Is wandering around. He decided he could not wait for me to finish before coming in. So we are gonna, and then I was going to do a couple of small highlights with white because I have a pearlescent metallic white here. That is not it. That is black. Here's the white. So I was going to add that in a couple of places, and so that the red is not the primary focus. And some red creeped around here, and I'm not sure how that happened. But then I'm going to take the tiny brush and touch up with the black. And so I'm just taking a brief moment to kind of look things over. See where I'm missing. I am not sure I'm a huge fan of this red, but it is difficult to find a good metallic red. The metallic's the tricky part. I'm sure everyone noticed the color of my nails has changed. It's because I realized that there was a brush that I needed to get to complete this the way I wanted to, and that is the Army Painter Horror Games of Psycho. This is for minuscule detail, like we're coming to here. And I'm also going to fix some of the black. these colors put on. I'm going to do a little bit of highlighting with some white, just to create a little bit more contrast in certain sections. Dots here and there, and then we'll be done. The G-FRED to the best of my current ability. And like, comment, and subscribe, Strategists, if you want to see more. And we're actually going to do some full-size Gundam here soon, and that'll be considerably easier. But I just want to show off where I'm at, and I'm gonna add some turf onto this little guy once I'm done, and he's fully dried. And you guys have a good day.